Hi, welcome to the Rutland Town School Board. I'd like to start the meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I'd like to have a moment of silence for a member who was deceased on the boys lacrosse team. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family. So I'd like to have a moment of silence now. Thank you. It's time for the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Billy. Now we're on to teacher, staff, and community comments. There are a few guests in our room. Anyone online that would like to make any comments today? Seeing none, we'll move on. Now we're at old business. I just wanted to start by making the GRCSU committee alternates a little bit more definitive. I'm not sure at our reorganizational meeting that we even named alternates for all of the committees. So I'd like to appoint Jeff as the alternate for the GRCSU board. So if Tim, Lynette, or I cannot make it, please contact Jeff first. If Jeff cannot make it, then please contact me. So I'm aware that we need to either talk to Billy or that we're down a person for that meeting, okay? For the policy committee, I will be the alternate for that. So Billy or Jeff, if either of you cannot make those meetings, please contact me. If I can't make the meetings, then we'll be down a person, or I'll make the decision to ask Lynette or Tim at the time, okay? For the nominating, or the hiring committee, Tim, are you okay being the lead on that committee? As we stated at the March, it was kind of,
Yeah.
you weren't sure if you had the time, and so I just wanted to make sure that we had the lead on there as one and the alternate as another. So are you okay doing the lead on that, or do you prefer being the alternate?
I mean, I can take the lead for now.
Okay.
If it becomes too much.
And I'll be the alternate, so if you can't make it,
Okay.
you can contact me and we'll go from there. Okay?
Yep.
Second item is the future meeting location and technical logistics. Greg, are you on here?
Yep, Greg Connors.
We were wondering,
Hello.
Hi, were you able to meet up with Kelly McGee in the library and kind of sort through logistics?
We did, and we determined that a Promethean board would fit if certain shells were removed, and he already has a location to the right-hand side that he's going to relocate 2 top shelves, and then it will be a Promethean board similar to the ones around school, and it will fit right in that space, right at the end of the table, right there in the library. And so I have a quote from Pro AV and a quote from Amazon. One is for a PC that will power the board and run the meetings and such. It'll be mounted right on behind it. And the rest of the stuff, cabling and other miscellaneous parts, we have from GRCSU Tech stock. So it'll come to $3,117, including shipping. One thing, Lewis closed the POs for the year. So I think what Lewis wanted to do is just get an okay from the board to, kind of go ahead of procedure. I do believe that it will drop ship in 2 or 3 weeks, so that we will receive the items well before the closing of the books for the fiscal year. And if you guys say okay to go ahead, I will generate the POs tomorrow and place the orders.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and purchase what's needed.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Lynette. I would like to have a little further discussion as to, will that mean that our meeting in June will be at the school?
My question, I guess, would be, I don't know if everything will be up and running, and then who's going to run the equipment. And that's really the last while school's in session. So I would think just stay with this for June, and then we'll decide in July whether we go back to the school or not. Because we're still down custodians and everything, it is still kind of a problematic. I mean, and then who's there to open or close, lock up the school?
Sarah?
I think that is Lynn's idea is really good because Pro AV could not guarantee the drop ship. They couldn't even give me an actual date from them, like Promethean are kind of very cagey about ship dates because there's supply chain problems. So we could wind up with getting it 4 weeks and then need maintenance, and then we could have some other problem hanging it or something like that. So yeah, I think going to the July meeting would be a good idea.
Why don't we touch base in June and see how things are? Is that what you would?
Yeah, and I'll give the board an update in June. Who knows? It might get shipped in a week, and we might be able to put it up really quick, and then maybe we can restructure it after that. But probably, I think from the way that they have been shipping, that it'll be 2 or 3 weeks minimum.
Thank you, Greg. Sarah, do you want to add something?
I was just going to say that, and I was going to say what Greg said.
Okay.
I agree with Greg and what Lynette said, and we had also shared, I think, with the public, it was agreed that we would stay here for the remainder of this year, and we'd reassess in the summer, so
Okay.
never
Jeff-
know when it's going to come.
Jeff also brought up a very good thing, too, is we're coming into the hottest part of the year, believe it or not, and we're air-conditioned here.
So maybe we stick to this through August.
Maybe we'll wait till next school
September.
year.
Yeah.
But we can talk about it. Good
Yeah.
thinking, though, Jeff.
All right, so we'll check in June and go from there.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
Great. The next thing on the agenda is the board retreat. In March, we said that we would talk about it on a future agenda, so I'm bringing it up again. We are supposed to have a board retreat once a year to kind of get together and look at goals, reflect on the last year, talk about what our goals are for next year as we start thinking about budgets for the following year and things like that. So I wanted to hear your thoughts about possible dates, times, whether or not we want to have it facilitated by the VSBA. They do offer that service to kind of lead us through what we want to talk about. And I've never done a board retreat before, so I was also hoping Lynette could give us a little heads up on what to expect.
Okay. My thoughts on a facilitator, I am not a pro facilitator person, because usually we end up discussing what they think we should be discussing and not actually discussing what we need to. Our last superintendent was really big on those. Usually we go somewhere, we talk. Typically, it isn't so close to the end of the year, but before the next year comes, because this summer, when you're going through and doing all the scheduling and all of that, and what you're looking at, maybe new programs or new curriculum that's brought into it, it gives them an idea and time also to see what they may or may not need. So it gives us a chance to look at, for upcoming budgets, what we may be looking at. And typically, it's almost like a 5-year plan, in our minds, what the school needs. Okay, so you've got the facility, you've got curriculum, problem solving, which is huge, stuff like that. So we used to have it in August, September, somewhere. I think the last, excuse me, a few times we had it was at the country club. I don't even know who's open anymore. And we would have dinner and discuss things, very informal. Of course, the public's always welcome to come. Just know that we're going to be eating while we're talking. So if you're grossed out by that, don't come. So, stuff like that. But I like it better when it's informal, because then we can talk one-on-one as friends. We don't make any decisions. We just discuss a lot and prioritize and then go from there. It's been missing, like I said, for 3 years now because of COVID. And it is time to get back on the same page. It seems to me the last at least 2 years, we've been putting out fires more than preventing them. And I'd love to be able to go back to the prevention part of it, and put the board on the same path. It's easier.
So is that also where we come up with goals?
Yep.
And then who comes to that besides the 5 of us?
The board, and any administrators. Like I said, it used to be managed or run by the superintendent. However, they have lives. So the other one did not. Literally, the last superintendent, I could call at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'd have an answer. But, well, I would say the superintendent only, or assistant superintendent, only to make sure that what we're discussing is still on the same plane as what they're thinking of. Because boards, we have a tendency, we can come up with some pretty wild ideas sometimes. And it needs to be reined in a little bit. So it's always nice to have them, because they are, in fact, responsible for the school. And pretty much everything runs through the superintendent, except for policies. And then, of course, like I said, we always had an open meeting. Anybody could attend. I've got to say, I don't think we ever had anyone attend. I guess we did one year when we had it at South Station. We had a couple people that came and actually bought dinner and ate dinner and listened. So, they're more than welcome to come. We always did, but it's kind of like our meetings here. We don't get many. And it's not going to be, I would say, will not be virtual. Plus, it would be an in-person type meeting. So, I like it because we get to know each other better. Whereas right now, we see each other, once a month for 2 to 3, 5 hours. And so.
Chris, have you done board retreats with other districts?
Yes.
Would you agree that that's kind of similar how the other districts do it too?
Yeah, I think it depends on what the board's ultimate goal is of the retreat. I think, depends on the year, depends on the scope. I think, considering that coming off of, we're still dealing with, COVID, but, as we're shifting this endemic phase, I think it's important for the, the board to kind of take a look at goals and moving forward. And I know there's some things we're talking about tonight around potential budgeting, concerns around school lunch and PCBs and things along those lines. But I think it's a good opportunity just really to reestablish, the board's vision and goals for the year, and for myself as well as for Lisa and others, just to have an understanding about what's expected and how we can be a part of that as well. So,
when do you? I was looking at June 27th as an option, but you're saying that fall is better?
Fall is better. In June, you can discuss the year that's already gone by, but you're better off looking ahead, and it's a little more positive when you look at August, September, because everybody gears up before school starts. We're all excited, and they have more of a better idea of what is needed. But it's all up to you guys. I think June is way too early.
So the fourth Monday of August is probably, without looking at a calendar, the Monday before school starts, which is back to school night, if we're doing that.
Yeah, actually, in my principal's report, I wanted to do back to school night a couple weeks in September.
Instead of August?
Yeah,
So then that might work for
just
us.
because it's so
I won't be there that
crazy.
night.
You won't be here the fourth
I'll be
Monday.
out.
Okay. What, Lisa would be here maybe?
I'd have to ask, so.
Would that work for you if Lisa were available,
Sure.
the fourth Monday? Or would you wait until Chris is available?
Why do you keep
What's that
asking me?
date? Do you know the date?
What?
It's the 22nd of August is the fourth Monday. If you wanted to do the very next night, I mean, I could do it the 23rd.
Of August?
It's just that I won't be getting back until late the night on the 22nd.
So well, we're looking at August, right? So that would be the 29th? Or no, it would be the
23rd.
22nd. Oh, I see. So that's
23rd.
before school starts anyway. So the
23rd.
23rd is a Tuesday. That would work for me.
Works for me.
23rd, you said?
It's a Tuesday,
Is
August
that okay with you,
23rd.
Tim?
Yep, as far as I know.
Okay.
First dibs on my night,
There you
Tuesday
go.
the 23rd.
So how do we make arrangements for that?
Typically, or in the past, when we've had them, what's happened is the SU calls and say, I don't know where you want to go, but they usually will call around, reserve the room. Usually what happens at that time is superintendent picks up the bill.
So we're gonna go somewhere cheap.
Is there a line item in our?
Grilled
There
cheese.
is, but.
I'll set up a
cheeses
tent
for
apart.
But
everybody.
typically, water only, but no, but
Hose.
because then the
Lemon.
secretary will go through and tell everybody how much they owe and we can reimburse.
But isn't there a line item there? Sherry
probably-
and I found one for board, because we talked about that for,
Yeah.
for board expenses, and it hasn't been used. So years ago, that's what it was used for.
Well, it was originally put in back when I was, this is 30 years ago, was put in when I was secretary. So I was, well, vice chair, secretary, and I literally did all of it. And I would do the minutes up and I would do, so I had to be.
Like handwritten?
Oh, yeah, and then I would type it out, and, yeah, so that's where that line comes from for board expenses, yeah. And it's not a slush, as everybody can tell now, it's not a slush fund, because we've
Correct.
never used it.
Correct.
But, yeah, it used to, originally, when this all started, it was completely paid for by the town residents. Yeah, and then when I got on, that stopped.
Okay.
So it might, I mean,
I think there's, because the last, I could be wrong, but we could check with Louis, there is a line item for
probably, but
expenses.
in the past, we have paid for our own dinner, but it's totally up to the board. As long as you just don't go for the filet mignon, you know, lobster tails and stuff like that.
You like to eat.
I promise you won't have filet or lobster tails at my event, so don't have to worry about that.
No?
Are we doing the country club?
I'm just saying that's where, I'd love to have it in the town, but there really isn't a place that has a room we could use. So, it doesn't matter to me. And I do know that, is it Painters? What are they called? The restaurant?
Oh,
Anyway,
Baxter's?
Baxter's. They are open, that I have heard, so, which is fine. Anybody know of anywhere?
South Station does rooms with
Yeah, but that's a little above our price range.
Actually, the backcountry club's got good pricing
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
and that time.
They always think about the taxpayer.
And the time, probably 5 to 8? Does that
Is
work?
that okay? Okay.
So 5 to 8, country club,
August 23rd.
August 23rd, and the admin office will
Yeah, if you could.
schedule.
Yeah, if you want. If not, let me know.
And so we'll ask for a private room.
Yeah. We
Okay.
usually end out on that big balcony thing, and it's huge.
And I think we need an agenda for that, is that correct? So we'll work on that beforehand.
So not September,
August 23rd.
Is that okay?
yes.
Chris, you're gonna be away the week before that?
Correct.
So
And I'll
then,
have everything all done
Okay.
prior to before going away.
okay, I'll just so I'm aware when to expect it, okay?
Yep.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you, everyone. Moving on. New business. So the teacher listening hour and school tour actually kind of go together. It's been a long time since I feel like the school board's been at the school due to COVID. We were kind of all locked out. It's like a little speakeasy when you would go to try to get in, open a crack to see if they'll let you in. It's a lot better now. And I feel like it would be really helpful for all of us to kind of see the school with our own eyes. And it will help when we do meet for our goals to talk about what we saw, what we think we need going forward, and that type of thing. In addition to that, it's been a really long time since we've, sat down and talked with teachers. And I feel like, they're on our team. We need to hear from them, what's making their day good, what's making their day not so good. We may not be able to fix all their issues, but at least to know what they are so we can use that too when we're forming our goals. So my thought was we could do a tour and then, if you're available, and then stay through their lunch hour and let the teachers come in and chat with us if they want to. We're there. If they choose not to, that's fine too. But if they have anything they want to share with us, that will be there and they know that. Even if they want to just drop a little note off and say, I only have 2 minutes, but, these are the things I was thinking about or whatever. I just feel like it gives them an opportunity to have access to us informally. I checked with Sarah and there weren't many days that would work, but this was one day. If I was wondering if anyone else was available on that day to try to make that happen.
I'm
Might
just,
be able to come for the listening part and maybe not for the tour. I don't know if you would have a time for like the listening part, like what their lunch hours.
Yeah, usually between, 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock.
Kind of busy.
Yeah, 11 to 1.
You can give us a place to hang out and just,
Yeah, and I mean, there's a teacher's room. I could also, the teacher's room, if that's okay.
Conference room down there.
That may be,
Maybe it's you.
I'll find a spot. How
Okay.
about that? And then, so you'd be coming that morning, correct? About what time?
well, anyone that's available that wants to come, however long you think it would take an
I'm
hour
just-
for the tour.
just curious of, again, why June 3rd?
Because, well.
Because school's in session.
School's in session, and I thought it was better to see the school when it was in session, kind of see how things are moving, how students move in the hallways, the volume level when we're walking through the halls. There's a lot of things that happen during the school day. If you're not there, you don't know. So, and we're not inviting the public,
No,
there's
no,
just a
that's fine,
few
and
of
I know
us,
that,
yeah.
I know.
So I just feel like it gives us a better view of the everyday world of Rutland Town School if we go during the school day. So, I don't know, an hour enough or an hour and a half? What should we plan on?
I think an hour would be fine.
So like 10 to 1 figure on, and I was thinking that we could try the school lunch.
I don't know if I want to be honest with you.
if you want to, bring your money, or you don't actually have to, I don't know. It costs
Yeah,
money, right?
adults have to pay.
How much is it?
Correct. Close to $4.
$4
or
for
four
adults.
something. Bring $5.
Or you can bring your own lunch,
Good.
so.
Okay, I have no problem with this. Reason I'm hesitating is we've not been able to do it for 3 years. Typically, a month after school opens, we have a get-together, coffee hour is what we called it. But all the teachers come in and we all talk. It's just the teachers and the board, admin, whoever wants to be there. We have light snacks. And we get to talk, meet the new teachers. There's teachers there that I have not met yet and been there for more than a year, only because I want to stay out. It's just, right now is a kind of a mess. But, so as long as with the understanding that come the new year, we will have another one, so that we can get together with the teachers. I know in the past, we just sat in the cafeteria and talked for a couple hours. It was after school, and whatever teachers wanted to come was fine. Or you can even hold it off a little later before we start budget, so we can hear what their concerns are, maybe their needs, at the same time, kill two birds with one stone. That I find that used to be extremely helpful. And then they understood more or less what individual board members thought of different things, and then we get their perspective of different things, which is awesome.
Rutland didn't have, I think one time they had like small tables and there was like a prompt at the table.
Yes.
So like, it was almost like the.
We
school
did
board
that,
meeting,
yeah.
like a round robin, with
Yep.
the school board member moved from table to
There would-
table while the teachers stayed, and then they kind of.
Right, or vice versa, or
Right,
because we made sure that only one board member was at a table.
Speed dating?
Yeah.
Almost like that. And
I haven't done it before, but.
And that way, and that actually worked better than the free-for-all thing in the cafeteria. Because a lot of times, people just come in and they sit and don't move and you don't meet them.
Right.
But, yeah, I find that extremely beneficial, more so than,
I think that sounds great. I think doing both would be great, because we can kind of, just hear where teachers are right now, after COVID, after 2 years of this. And then in the fall, we'd be able to meet the new teachers and see how things are going. I think they're both
and that's
great.
fine, as long as, like I said, when we do this, that it's the understanding of, we are here. If you want to come visit and talk, please come. But by no means during your lunch hour, you need to go
Yep.
meet with the board.
That's all it is.
That's all.
Yep.
I don't
It's
want
just an
anybody to feel they
opportunity.
have
If
to.
anyone has anything to say, we'll be there. And if they don't, that's fine.
And again, no decisions will be made because there'll be more than 3 board members there.
Correct.
No problem.
Okay,
Oh, I
so
better put
we'll
that
plan
down.
on 10 to 1 on June 3rd for a tour and just some time to listen to teachers if they choose to use it. And then in August, we'll set up a time for a teacher listening hour or 2 at the school, more formally.
Board staff social.
Staff social.
You got it. That's what it was called.
Do you think maybe so in previous years that was done usually in like September and it was like before a board meeting?
No.
So this will be in August
It was a
before
separate
school
night,
starts?
yeah.
No,
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 it
we're
doesn't
going
even
to-
have to be September, October is fine.
we're going to set a date in August at our
Oh,
August
sorry.
meeting for September, October.
For a separate, just
Right.
for that. Got it. Okay.
So, I'm sorry, you said 10 to 1, right?
Yep, 10 to 1 on June 3rd.
Which is no
And
problem.
sometimes that social was half and half of the association, so I think in the past sometimes there was a dinner, right, Lynn?
That was years ago, and we would, every other year, either the teacher association would pay for dinner and have it catered, or the school board would. Being the first year back,
But I'm just thinking if you're talking about like little munchies or something.
I think that's what we did last time. We had, somebody
You can
came in and
split
catered.
between the Association and the school board. Just
Yeah.
let us know.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so moving on. The parent appeal. I believe we have a parent in the room.
Yes, and Michael, I believe your wife's online as well, correct? Yep, okay.
Melissa?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just doing dinner, so I'll have it on mute.
So you two are on.
Oh.
What would you like to talk about?
Oh, I thought you, I don't know if you guys know or not, if you were in communication with Chris or not, but basically, our daughter, her birthday's September 22nd, and because of that, she's gonna basically repeat preschool for the third time. And we normally wouldn't bother us if that was the case, but she's kind of really advanced, and I'd hate for her to kind of repeat preschool again over a matter of just 20 days. I mean, she reads independently, and all her teachers think that she would do very, very well in kindergarten without a problem. Principal spoke to the teachers, and they told her that she would pass no problem in placing into kindergarten. It was just we had to go through this process and get here, so that's the appeal. Because I think the policy F20, doesn't really make much exception for that unless, or it's more of the discretion of the board at this point.
Yeah, the policy F20, and I explained this to Michael and Melissa, there's a September 1st cutoff on there, and so I explained as they went through the channels that only the board could take a look at this policy and make a decision. That we could not negotiate policy at this particular point.
So, I think we need to discuss whether or not we want to make an exception to this policy, and I think for that we need to go into executive session. So do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session
All in favor? For,
to discuss
It's on
policy F20.
It's on the first bullet point, discuss or consideration of student records or documents.
Thank you.
Or
Okay.
F20, yeah.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Billy.
The state
All right,
is
so
very.
We will
have
be
to go
back
out.
on this link after executive session. Okay, I'd like a motion to exit executive session.
So made.
Lynette, thank you.
7:13.
All right, as we discussed, the board has decided to deny the request. However, our principals would love to have a educational support team meeting to help address your daughter's strengths and help to make them stronger.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just her strengths, it's challenge her in every aspect, in everything.
Exactly.
That would be possible, yeah.
So they'll love to brainstorm with you and try to find ways to make that happen for next year too. So thank you for bringing the request to us.
Yes.
All right, moving on, finance.
He'll call you.
I'll call you.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening,
Hi, Lois.
Lois.
So there was some financials in the packet, which were just system-generated financials. The only item I have to discuss tonight, and then I'll take questions, is the line of credit for next year. So every year we go out to bid for, or not go out to bid, we go out for a proposal. Since we've merged, we've only got a proposal from our bank because of the banking environment has changed over the last few years, where most banks require you to switch your banking to them in order for them to give you a proposal. So we've just stuck with that. So each year we get a loan, line of credit.
Never mind.
So that we can borrow funds starting July 1, while we are waiting for funds from the state, whether it be from the treasurer or from the, directly from the state. In Rutland County's case, it's just from the treasurer. So we have expenses starting on July 1, but we don't start getting payments for our taxes until September. So we have a time that we have to borrow money to make payroll, make accounts payable, pay our assessment. So this is a common practice that we do each year. The proposal is for a loan of $1,908,000, and it's at a rate of 2.25%. It is a line of credit, so we draw as we need it. We only draw as much as we need, and then if we have enough funds in the bank, we pay it down so that we're minimizing our interest expense throughout the year.
Do you need a motion to approve it?
Yes, I do.
I'll make a motion to approve the line of credit
Thank you,
as
Lynette.
proposed.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. Anyone have, did you have anything else, Louis?
That's all I have, but I'll take any questions if there are any on the financial.
I was curious on the plant, I'm trying to see the section. It's page 4 of the general ledger expenditure report.
Okay, let me just get there.
In the plant operations section.
Okay.
Why are we going over for water and sewer? Did we have an issue?
How much are we over?
It looks like it's going to be about 4,200. It's on page 4.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's almost double.
Almost double what we budgeted. So I was just curious if there was an issue that we should know about or what's going on.
Nothing that I know of. I can definitely talk to Kelly and see if he knows something that's going on, whether there's been an increase lately in the rates or in the amount. I'm sure part of it's a pay per use. So I can definitely talk to Kelly and report back with an email in a follow-up this week.
Thank you. And then another one on supplies. That was over almost 6,000. Was that anticipated or do we know about that?
In the same section, plant
Yes.
operation?
Yes.
I can definitely check into that, but I'm guessing that's just due to increase in prices. I mean, everything is going up, every single price, and we didn't anticipate that when we did our budgeting. I know definitely like food service and household supplies like toilet paper and all that stuff has increased pretty significantly over the last 2 years. So I'll check on that as well, and I can report back in the same meeting, but there's nothing that I know offhand as to what's causing that specifically.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm just wondering if the water had anything to do with the skating rink, if they pulled from our hydrant, or whether they pulled water from the pond or the lake, the stream. I hope we didn't
Fire
use.
department was there.
Right, but I don't know
Pull
if
from
they,
the hydrant and it
The
doesn't
hydrant.
meter.
it doesn't meter?
From the hydrant.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually had one more question on page 1 of the Rutland Town Student Activity Accounts Payable.
The warrant? Yep.
There was a reimbursement for DC fundraiser for, to Amazon. I was just curious what that was
So
for.
those are checks that are cut by the school directly, not by my office.
Right,
DC fundraiser for,
Amazon for $102.91.
Maps or something perhaps?
can you,
Well, I can definitely check into
what
that.
line is,
It's
sorry.
the 5th line.
Yeah, so I mean, it could be somebody bought something for part of the fundraiser and just, it was a reimbursement.
Or maybe it was just put under the wrong code or something, maybe?
Oh, well, that's just a description, but definitely, I'm sure that's a possibility. But I can look into that. I will call the school tomorrow and have them pull that invoice so we can see what the details are. I'll
Okay.
put that in an email as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all the questions I had.
Okay, and then, so if we're on the tax anticipation
mine.
loan, there is the bank documents at central office. And I labeled where the board needs to sign. If you could sign that before you leave tonight, that would be great.
Does the whole board need to sign it?
It'll tell you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we only need a majority, but if everybody's there, they can sign it.
So does everyone hear that?
Yep.
Before we go,
And
we
there's
need to
a-
sign this.
And then there is a spot for the board clerk, and I've identified that too on there with a separate label.
Okay. Well, it must be the red one.
Thank you very much, Louis. We have the folder right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Moving on, we're to the consent agenda with director's orders. Were there any questions on those? Do I have a motion to accept the director's orders?
I'll make a motion to accept the director's orders.
Thank you, Jeff.
I have a problem.
Now on to minutes. Approval of the minutes from the meeting April 11th. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Any discussion? I just have a couple things. Alina's name was spelled incorrectly on page 3, and I know that Shauna does spell phonetically, but because she's an employee, I just thought it should be corrected. Alina spelled with 1 E.
Okay.
And then on page 7, I think there was a misunderstanding. So I had asked Sarah about a photo that was on her report, and she was speaking about the photo when she said that Raya, which is spelled R-Y-A-H, like it was on the first page, was at an Up for Learning session, and they were being taped, and at the end of the session, they were allowed to use the video camera. And that was what the photo was of. So there was no one at the meeting for Up for Learning that was taping our meeting. So I just wanted to correct that. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
The date, just put your signature.
Jeff and Lynette, are you okay with approving
Yes, I'm
minutes?
fine.
Okay.
Yes.
Next is the superintendent's report.
All right, thanks, Tina. But just a few items. It was a relatively quick month when you have spring break kind of tucked in there. Rutland, I know Sarah and Eric will kind of talk about this, but Rutland Town has set their date for the graduation promotion ceremony, and thank you, Sarah, for the invitation. So I will be there. It'll be
You
nice
got
to
an
actually.
invitation?
What's that?
You got an invitation?
Yeah,
Geez, I
they
didn't.
need custodial help. That's probably why.
We need somebody to set up chairs. Right?
Yes,
I
yes,
might bring my own
definitely.
broom, so I guess that tells me where I'm at. So. But no, it'd be good to be there to kind of continue to celebrate. I know I was there last year, and it was a nice ceremony. It'd be nice to see just a nice, normal graduation ceremony. So thank you for that. A few other items there, just informative. I do want to talk a little about the SBAC. That the last week, the SBAC went public, the SBAC results, the AOE snapshots. So what we are doing is right now we're working kind of behind the scenes on compiling that data. And our goal is to, at the June Rutland Town Board meeting, to have Al Grigorich, Lisa Madison here, as was myself, to also kind of talk about the snapshots and kind of walk us through that both in public session as well as executive session as well. So we have that in June for you. Also, there's a long list here for the legislative report. Obviously, this was published prior to the conclusion. There are some items for consideration. I haven't talked about this with other boards that. There are three areas that I'm just a little bit concerned about. We're waiting to see what's at. Obviously, the first is PCBs. We do have a testing date set for Rutland Town, actually a testing window, and that's January 1st of 2023 through March 30th of 2023. So we'll kind of see what that looks like and have that setting. The nice thing about that is Rutland Town has a little bit of lag time. We do have other schools within the GRCSU that will start this summer. So kind of be able to kind of go through that with Kelly and Eric and Sarah kind of working through this. Our concern is not necessarily with the testing. I think what a lot of superintendents and boards concerns is if there were to find PCBs in a school around the cost of mitigation or remediation and the impact that might have on school or community. And so I think that's where a lot of the discussion has been around financial assistance or support. I know that we do have a lot of concerns that if we would have to shut a school down for a short duration of time, what that would look like. But we are kind of on the back end just starting to work on contingency plans and look at just different scenarios. But there obviously, as we look at budgeting and consideration, I know that talking with Tina earlier, that as we look at this window, January to March, Obviously, it's after budgeting, so if there were to be something that happened, to fall out of the budget cycle. So there are things for us to consider this summer as we start talking about, Rutland Town and budgets moving forward. Another item for consideration around school lunches, on the university school lunch, and I know that we know that next year will be paid for. A lot of it's out of the ed fund, which I know some people weren't happy about because that money was kind of initially earmarked to assist taxpayers, and I guess they could say in one way or shape or form that this is assisting taxpayers with universal lunches. Our concern is what happens, I think, after next year as we go back to what the budgeting concerns as we look at the cost to provide universal lunches for Rutland Town students, and I think it's something for us to discuss. But I know that I was talking with Lewis today. The nice thing about having our budget discussions earlier, like in July, we'll be able to start kind of visioning forward and really looking at do some cost analysis and things along those lines. So another item that's in here, which we're kind of just waiting to see. I know it's really moving piece is just around the religious tuition for schools, and I know that I think part of what was being discussed was just about developing some guidelines or some frameworks around about language being used, but I do know that there's some court cases out there that are still pending that will impact that as well. So it'd be interesting to see what keep an eye on that in the future and what impact it'll have on Rutland Town and particularly being a school choice district. So
We are. And like I said, the problem is the lawsuits are still out there. They haven't settled.
Right.
MSJ's out there saying, well, send them. They're free. You don't have to pay. Not necessarily true, because some of the decisions say, well, it's up to the school district to decide and figure out what part of the education from, just use MSJ because they're the only ones that really affect Rutland Town the most anyways. What part of that is religious? What is not? Because we can only pay for the non-religious part of the education. MSJ is saying, well, it's throughout the day, so we can't tell you. So almost automatically, we're at default because we can't, they won't provide the information. They want just the full amount of money. In fact, they want more than, they have students that pay, let's just use arbitrarily, $7,500 to go to MSJ. But because they're ascending schools now, they want to charge us double. Okay, that to me is very, very wrong. You just don't try to feather your nest with sending schools. And not only that, but right now anyways, they do not meet the same standards of public schools. They're not held accountable like all public schools are. They don't have special education that all public schools have. So why, I just, unless they come up to date and they meet the same standards everyone else should, and they have the special education that these students need, I personally, and I've always been pro let's pay, but they're not playing fairly. Okay, you don't, number one, charge us double what you're charging the say Rutland City kids or whatever. And you can say what you want. You could say the tuition's $14,000, but we're granting everybody except sending schools $7,000 grant. So the families only have to pay the $7,500, but sending schools have to pay the whole thing. I don't see how that is correct. I don't see how it's right. We have not had a decision on that. The Board of Education still holds that we cannot pay money to a religious institute, anything based on religion. They tell you you cannot, okay? Or you can lose your funding, whatever. They refuse to change that law. So therefore, we're still in the same position we were 3 years ago when they started this. The only reason we started paying is even though the lawsuit isn't finished, one of the judge nicely said, well, you must pay for this person. So if we have to pay for this person, then now, of course, everybody in MSJ is out there publicly advertising. Send your kids, your towns have to pay. I would if they had the same level of responsibility as everybody else. I'm not so sure they're getting the education or the opportunities or the help that they would get at public schools. I have, my family has all graduated from MSJ, so by no means am I bad-mouthing them. But it's not right, and until this is settled, and Chris will tell you a huge thing, why isn't the state helping us? Just by saying, no, you can't pay for the religious part of the education, they refuse to put their foot down and say, you have to tell the schools, the paying schools, how much is religion and how much isn't. Is it 100% no religion? Is it 80-20, 90-10? And that has been kind of pushed aside. We're just waiting for lawsuits to get finished. And it's been a long time, and they're procrastinating, and I don't know what the answer is. But I'm just letting you all know that I was out there fighting the fight. Now it's your fight.
Thank you. Chris?
And that concludes my report.
Shut up before she gets on another tangent.
No, I think so. A lot of this is for information purposes, and I know that, I did want to conclude, I know that last week was, Teacher Appreciation Week.
Yes.
And so I know, I just want to publicly, once again, just thank, Rutland Town teachers and staff for all that they do. I know that I'm stealing Sarah and Eric's thunder by doing this, but that's my job. But like I said, it's been great. And I know that opportunity to send a note out, and but it is great. And I'll be in the school building tomorrow, kind of walk around, so it'll be good to see. I may even stop in Miss Turner's classroom.
That reminds me, first of all, I want to thank you for all the legislative updates on here, Chris. It's really helpful to kind of get a snapshot of what's going on. And I believe next meeting in June, we're supposed to have some legislative representatives come. Yep. I believe I heard back from the senators, and they all said that they would try to come in. That would be Senator Terenzini, Hooker, and Colomar. I still have not heard back from Representative Terenzini by email. I've emailed him a couple times. I don't know, did you hear back from him?
So tomorrow we can kind of strategize and then look to see who we're still missing in possible outreach as well. So. And
I know that Senator Hooker and Senator Terenzini are not running for re-election, but I still think it would be helpful to have their insight as to what's going on. And there was a lot in your legislative updates that I think it's important for the public to be aware too before we start thinking about budget for next year. So I'd love to explore it more next visit, next meeting.
And I think in the next couple of months, we'll start to see some of these, the details kind of, suss themselves out. I mean, so, because I think, like PCB, I think we'll be talking about this for a while, just around, and I do think at this time next year, it might be a completely different solution, just considering the cost. I think some of the early adopters will go through this and, they see what the cost is, and there might be a much different approach in a year's time. So,
Thank you. All right, principal's report.
All right, thank you. So students completed the SBAC. Yay, that was a lot of testing. So good job to students. Thank you, teachers and staff, and Kate Daly for all of our organization of that. We had our first assembly in 3 years. We had a K4 Roar assembly that took place last week, or the week before. So about respect, responsibility, etc., which was great. The middle school band was able to march in the Loyalty Day Parade. There's a picture included in my report there. We had the 501st Legion Star Wars group that visited us on May 4th, which was super fun. May the 4th be with you. So Craig Hahn is a former parent, Rutland Town School parent, and he's done Make-A-Wish, a number of things in the community. So we were really excited to have them greet the kids. As Chris said, a special thanks to all teachers and staff for what they do every day, all year, and thanks to all parents and board members that gave a special thanks to teachers and staff. It was really appreciated. 8th graders are gearing up for the trip to Washington, D.C. Mr. Gross is maybe ready, maybe not, bags packed. So they leave early Tuesday morning. They'll come back late Friday night. We had our last parent meeting with them last week. We'll meet with them again just to review expectations, packing lists, don't be late. The bus is leaving at 7.
Ask one question? Okay, and this is probably within just the last few days. We've had students pull out from the trip. Yeah, no?
Parent request today for a medical reason.
Okay, you'll be getting more, from what I understand.
Okay.
And one is a chaperone also.
Yes, yep.
So, I'll go into it more in executive session because it's concerning students, but I think last week's event also contributed to this problem, so. I was just wondering how many you had heard. I just found out just 5 minutes ago, so.
We also, Eric and I had a virtual meeting this evening at 5 o'clock with our current 7th grade families, just gearing them up for fundraising. This is the time to start car washes, bottle drives, get on that road, pick up stuff. So hopefully, and I reminded them to come to the board prior to November 15th to ask for approval. Back to school night, as I mentioned earlier, that's going to be September 14th, so that's a little bit later than usual. So we're excited for that. That'll be at 5:30. It's not on here, but would like to thank especially middle school students that helped with Green Up Day. So Officer Angie was able to get some Green Up bags from the town hall, and we had a number of kids that went out to help pick up trash. I also wanted to give a summer programming update that unfortunately it doesn't look like we will be offering summer school at Rutland Town School this year. I do not have the teachers and staff to staff it. I may have somebody to do middle school. I may have one teacher that can do middle school, but right now I don't have any teachers and staff that have volunteered to do that. So Lewis has been great. He suggested putting that through some of the ESSER funds, so I've pitched that to teachers. But I think, as we've talked about, teachers need a break, especially this summer, and I want them to come back fresh.
So just as a question, for students that need that summer school, what are we doing for that? Or is there some type of online program that we can offer them? I know that Rutland City has a tapestry program. I don't know if they have a summer school. Are we talking about, or within our own supervisory union, Poultney, Proctor, West Rutland, are they having summer programs that we can send the students that need it to?
Yeah, I would love to. I'm not sure what other schools are offering within our district. I don't know if you know, Chris. And that's like a vision I'd love to have, sharing resources, right? Like summer school will be housed, for example, at West Rutland this year. I'm not sure.
Right. I think that's something which we could consider. I mean, I don't know the numbers, but I do know that there have been discussions at West Rutland and Proctor Elementary in having summer school programming. I'm not quite sure what the extent of that is, off the top of my head, but I think that's, reach out to the principals of both buildings, talk with them and just see what.
That would be awesome, because these kids are already behind.
Yeah.
And not having
Share
summer
resources.
school, over the summer they lose a certain percentage anyways. Those kiddos are going to come back really hurting.
So I may be able to, I did have one teacher approach me on Friday that said that they were interested, but they're the only ones, and typically we have 2 in the middle school and 2 in elementary. So and I need to put a proposal forward to central office to see if that can be covered under ESSER funds. So I'll keep you posted, but I'll reach out to the principals too to see if there's anything else. Rutland City does, since they're title schools, they're able to offer some tutoring, but I'm not aware that we can tap into that. I'm not aware of that.
Well, are any of our schools able to do that?
She's going to check into it.
Yeah, so some of our, yes.
Because if they can, maybe we can share resources that way through the supervisory union?
I don't think I can through Tapestry, but I can ask Marie.
For tutoring.
Yeah, I don't believe we can, because that's for schools that qualify under free and reduced lunch numbers, and we do not. So that's why for Tapestry and some other schools with larger free and reduced lunch numbers, they've been able to get money to offer tutoring, and we have not been able to do that. So the year prior, we offered like a homework club, and that came out of the general fund because we weren't able to tap into that tutoring
So,
money.
If you have interest, Lewis and I could talk to you about potentially using ESSER funds to fund tutoring over the summer. if you
That's
have
what I
interest
want,
in
but
that,
I
yes.
just don't have the staff.
Right, that's.
So
the
that's
problem,
why
right.
the middle school teacher that approached me
Correct.
today said, I will do it for the ESSER amount. So I said, let's write a proposal and get it to central office to see if we can get this running. But I need the staff first. So I will absolutely reach out to other principals and ask, can any Rutland Town students attend your summer school programs? Because we have a need. Yeah.
Thank you.
We are actively looking for custodians
Oh, really? Something new?
and a special educator.
See that?
All year. We are down to 2 people still. So Kelly Treya and Dave Kelly. If anybody's interested, call me, email me, stop by the school. It's posted on School Spring. It's in the Rutland Herald. It's on Indeed.com. I listed a bunch of May dates. It gets me excited when I start talking about field day. I get excited about field day. That's not on here yet. That's for June. But we got the trip to Washington. We have some field trips coming up. We have the senior club that's coming to Rutland Town School to have their senior lunch, and then they'll have a meeting. So we've had the student council. We've asked them to help greet and help serve, to get them involved and have some TA ambassadors and some younger classrooms make some placemats for them. So they will be coming back. We have some team building day. We have the Memorial Day Assembly, which is open to the public on May 27th. And then on May 31st, the jazz band is going to go perform for the Orwell Senior Club. And that's it. Do you have anything to add?
Busy month. Busy month.
Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on, we have personnel. There's 2 resignations, Robin Aiken and Pamela McCullough. Do I have any motions?
I'll make a motion to accept the resignations of Robin Aiken and Pamela McCullough.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Lynette. Next, we have contract recommendations, which I believe we don't have any. Is that right?
Right. Oh, you do
Oh,
have
no, I
some.
do have one. I have horizontal movement for Marisa Kiefaber, a new hire, Shirley Bridgman, for the remainder of this year and for next year as a pre-K para. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Tim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And in your packet are the vacancies in the GRCSU for your information only. Any questions on that? Moving on, chair's report. So for the school lunch discussion, I just wanted to make the board aware, for those that aren't part of the GRCSU board, that next month we'll be talking about the renewal for the food vendor. And I wanted to know, if you had any strong thoughts or things that you wanted me to share with the GRCSU board when we meet next month. I've spoken with Sarah several times over the year about the school lunch, and it's continually trying to be improved. It's on a continuous improvement plan. I know that you had reached out to Kim Babcock, what's her name, about a survey that she ran. We never saw the results of that survey. Did you hear anything back about that?
I did. I assumed that she got the results right away because I saw some improvement based upon our conversations, and she did not get them, and she just received them last Friday or Thursday, and then she shared them with me.
And
A lot of kids were it's a lengthy response, and there was not a lot of positive in the results. She has made changes, and I know, just like everybody, staffing's been difficult. Getting fresh food has been, there's times where she has a case of watermelon and they're broken and bruised. She's great with feedback. I think some of the ladies in the kitchen are like going, oh, here comes Sarah. Because the kids will tell you. So the survey speaks volumes. The kids will tell you exactly how they feel about the food. I know they're trying.
So, all right.
I'd just like to add to that too. So I just think it's important to note that Kim did identify that many of the items that were in the survey have been identified prior to the survey results and have either been corrected or are currently in process of being corrected.
Correct.
And participation has increased over the last 2 months due to some of the changes.
Thank you, Lewis. Yes, she said by like 25 lunches consistently. So there's more kids eating school lunch. Thank you, Lewis. I forgot to mention that since she's made the changes. So like I said, a couple months ago when you asked, I said there has been an improvement. I've seen different things. I just assumed she received the feedback and she had not yet.
What about the throwing out of food? Is that still a problem? Is there still a large amount? At least, according to my kids, there's quite a bit of food thrown out, but I haven't asked them recently. So I'm wondering, has that changed since she's made some of the changes? Have you noticed? Is that something that's checked?
I don't know about Rutland Town specifically, but I think that's a common thing in most schools. Lunchtime is not only their time to eat lunch, but it's also their social time. And no matter how much you try to keep them focused on eating lunch, some kids eat faster than others, and their lunchtime is up, and all of a sudden they still have a lot of food, whether it's because they just chose not to eat it or because they were too busy talking. I visit all of the schools and monitor their lunches, and I do see across the board a lot of waste, and it's not because of the quality of the meal. It's just kids aren't always focused on eating. If there's not a parent there telling them, make sure you eat your vegetables or eat your food, and I think it's just a common practice, or across all of our schools at least.
And I've also heard that one of the issues is that they're low staff as well, and that some of our building helpers, like Officer Angie, is often serving food. So have we thought about any options or ways that we could try to help them in that department, or is that just with this group? Is that something that's consistent among other food vendors that you are aware of?
Staffing is an issue, state and national. We can't help them with staffing. We have our own staffing issues, whether it be paras or teachers on a daily basis. So
bus drivers.
We're just hoping for some relief in the near future hopefully for next school year.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I haven't seen the bucket, Tina. I do lunch and twice a week, and they used to have like a bucket where if they take a fruit.
It's there.
Right?
It's there. It's a turquoise bowl.
Oh, okay. Maybe they changed it a little bit.
Used to be the basket.
Okay.
It's not a basket. It's a turquoise bowl. I address that with Kim as well, because sometimes I think there's a basket and they're not allowed to put that food back.
Right.
And oftentimes we will give that to preschool, kindergarten, or keep in the guidance office, or in Miss Sabaka's office, or in my office, your office. So I say don't throw that out yet. We had a family that we gave a bag of oranges to, and you would have thought we gave him $1 million. He was so excited to go home on the weekend with fresh fruit. So I did remind her recently, because there's been a few times. So if it's not out there, let me know.
I try to think
Turquoise bowl right where you put the trays. Yeah.
I've seen it in the past, and usually it's overflowing.
Okay.
And
Okay, if you don't see it, let me know, because I addressed that when I spoke to Kim, and she was going to tell her staff to make sure that that's there.
Something I was wondering about, when you leave stores, sometimes they have a little happy face little thing, like a sad face, an okay face, a smiley face, or a really happy face, and you kind of push it on your way out. How was your visit today? I'm wondering if we could have, like at the dump line, if there's like a little comment box that kids could say, what meals they'd like to see, or, a new meal is out.
There's a lot of info in that survey. It was pages.
Yeah.
So kids provided feedback and suggestions. But
That she
yeah,
just got now.
yeah, she did. I mean, she was asking.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was asking.
I was
So-
just thinking like more dynamic going forward.
Yeah.
Like, did you like this meal? Yes or no? If it's a new meal, you know,
Mhm.
and kids could just put their, I don't know how to do it, but just to kind of, just an idea. All right. Well, thank you. That gives me information for the meeting and everyone else. Then the superintendent evaluation, we're supposed to, I believe, as one of our duties is to evaluate the superintendent on a yearly basis, and we haven't done it since January of last year. And there's different ways to do it. One way is to ask the VSBA to help us with it. I don't know how you did it last year.
We have a evaluation form that we filled out. Now, did that get resent out? Because I know we had discussed it.
I'll talk to Christine about that.
Okay. And you can look it out, look it over, and each board member fills it out. And there's a rating, like 0 to 5 or 1 to 5. And you have room for comments, for strengths, weaknesses, improvement, whatever. And then usually as chair, those come to me, and then I look and I average them so that section 1, you take and average what it is. Does it end up being 4 or 3, 5, or because usually you throw out the 1 and throw out the 5, which I've never been a proponent of. They're there to use, but and then average them out for the 5 of us and do one evaluation sheet for Rutland Town. And I believe that's how the rest of the boards were going to do it. So
Christine will get back to me on that, and then I can distribute it, and you can get it back to me, and then
Yep.
I can give it to Chris. Is that how it works? Do I go over it?
I think
Now-
we can meet with the other board chairs to discuss the process, just to see how.
right, and then usually what it was pre-COVID was that the 3 executive, I guess I can't be called executive committee anymore, but the executive committee, you know what I'm talking about, meets and they each have their evaluation for their district. And you combine them, look at them, and come up with an average for everybody. So the 3 chairs are the ones
That sit down and talk.
that sit down and talk, because you're doing it off of your board members.
So I received a GRCSU evaluation, but it's a compilation of all the boards.
Okay. The next item is the VSBA Vision Statement Survey. I was asked by the VSBA to ask 3 questions, and I will return our answers to them.
Tina, just so I also forwarded an email this evening. There's a Google form for the VSBA Vision Survey as well. So I
Oh.
sent it to all the board members as well. So we can do double. That's fine. But I didn't know you were going to ask the 3 questions.
Oh, it had said the
That's
board
fine.
chair.
Yeah.
Said, okay.
I got one superintendent to send it out. So if so, it's the email.
So
That's
should I,
fine.
well, to save time, how about everyone could just answer it themselves?
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay.
I do that.
All right. Policy formation. Before we get into the policies tonight, I just wanted to note a couple things. One, when I was reading over the essential work of Vermont school boards, when we establish policy, it says here that the policy committee of the supervisory union board creates a policy that is agreed to by all district representatives. In our case, that would be Billy and Jeff. Then the policy goes to the supervisory union board for approval.
All right.
Once it's approved by the board, the GRCSU board, then it goes on to each district board for ratification.
Right.
So the way we've been doing things is it's been going out to everybody at once from the policy committee. So I think that at the next GRCSU board, I'd like to discuss that with the group and talk about how we're not doing it according to
Yeah.
the book.
Basically, I mean, we're going to end up doing the same thing we're doing. Because at the GRCSU meeting, we went through them all.
But just the
now they're all
order.
back. Right, just
So
put
it
them in the
won't-
correct
It won't come
order.
to us until the GRCSU already approves it. So we won't have us making corrections and Well Springs making corrections because their reps from the policy committee and the GRCUSU board will most likely have already kind of done that. So it'll save us time at these meetings. But because we haven't done that yet, we still have some policies to go through.
Okay.
So on this agenda, so I have 3 second reads. Is there any discussion about these second reads?
No.
Policies for F9, G9, or D4? Do I have a motion?
Wait a minute. How come I've got 1, 2?
You have
is
the
that
old agenda. Remember, you
Oh,
didn't
that's
want a
right. He's
copy of
got
the new one?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I have no problem. I didn't have a problem with the 5 of them, so I don't have a problem with the 3 of them.
Originally, we had more. I sent them
Right.
back because they still weren't formatted or corrected.
I saw that, and I was waiting for you to say, but the 2 words are connected together, and they need to be separated, and so I
I did-
spent all that time reading them for nothing.
Oh,
but go
yeah, I'm
right
sure you
ahead.
did.
I did.
Okay. So do I have a motion for the second read
So
policies?
made.
Thank you, Lynette.
Tina?
Yes.
And looking back, it probably makes sense for you to ask those 3 questions, just to save time.
Okay, we'll back up.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize, but it's one where,
Okay.
to save time, 'cause I think they're gonna want you to do that anyways. And
Okay.
next meeting, they want double, so.
All right. So, from the board,
What if we all have different answers?
I'm going to compile all the answers, and I will type them up quickly and send them in, so you don't have to.
Gotcha.
If VSBA is wildly successful over the next 5 years, what will that look like to your local board? Jeff?
A little louder, please. Sorry.
No, it's no problem. If the Vermont School Board Association is wildly successful over the next 5 years, what will that look like to your local board?
We won't have a local board.
Okay.
What are you looking at me for?
That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
No, I know, or if we do, it's just going to be double the price of cost that we have now.
We'll just-
It's not even figuring the legislators or the governor.
Oh, will just be a showpiece.
Yes.
Sorry.
They've just about stripped us from all power. Go ahead. Sorry.
Anyone else have any comments?
I would just agree with what Lynette just said, like less power.
So less local input.
Yep.
Yep.
Thinking about the VSBA, what are the most valuable VSBA products and services? I think the model policy manual is helpful.
Yeah, seeing how that's the only thing we're really responsible for. Yeah. I mean, once in a while, they do get engaged and are out there fighting for real problems that the school boards are having, that where, you know, they try to help us, but they too have not got the power because of the advocates up there and the legislators.
So legislative advocacy.
Right. That's my opinion.
Anything else? And last question, thinking about VSBA, how could VSBA best serve the needs and interests of your board and district?
Do away with the 8-hour training. Sorry. No, I mean, I know they're trying to help, but they really don't have enough power to help the boards with the real concerns that we have. They seem to push off a lot of things. And I realize if I was up north, I probably would be afraid to open my mouth too, but, oh, that was stupid. No, I wouldn't.
Anything else?
I don't have much interaction with them, I don't feel like, so. I don't have a lot to add.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Well, that was a positive uplifter, right?
Oh, yeah. All right. So moving on to the first read policies. So I'll take each one at a time so we can discuss them. So we'll start with B1. So are there any comments on that one? And so for the second read, Chris, will we don't need to fill in the school district because that will just be done
Automatically, right.
when it's put into the
Correct.
manual per.
Correct.
Okay. So. H3, advertising in schools.
I agree that there shouldn't be any. Unless it's.
School related.
Well, I'm just saying, usually it's sports or the circle, which is awesome, because it's not political in any aspect. That I'm all for, but other than that.
I was just confused about the and or. The and is scratched out, so
Yep.
we just ignore that and it's or. So does that mean that the principals can dictate all fundraising activities and the board doesn't have to be asked anymore if it says or?
Actually, we have not been asked in the last few years. It used to be they would have a list, whether it's so many hat days or whatever it is, and the board. It was just more informational. Principals pretty much selected them and made sure there weren't too many of them. And, you know, over the years, of course, we've cut out almost everything that went door to door. We don't want our kiddos out there knocking on doors.
Well, this is saying that we don't have to say anything.
Right. I would still like to know what they are or how many. Typically, we try to, last time we discussed this in any depth, Sarah, I think it was because we had too many of them going and we were getting feedback from the residents.
Yes, there was a year, it was like bring in a can, bring in $1, like all of that. So I did, at the DC meeting, this evening, they said, do we need permission? I said, yes, you need to ask me permission before any fundraiser, before you do any fundraiser. And we just need to be mindful. And there was a point too where there was a class, a DC class, and I said, stop. Because it was every week to bring in
Right,
something. And it just puts a lot of pressure on kids. And it was too much.
Has anybody, this is just beside the point, I know that we do a lot of bottling cans and for fundraisers. The transfer station, is there any way they could put a container up there so people weekly could just drop stuff off and it's automatic?
They do for Four Winds.
Right, but,
That's-
but,
They do it for Four Winds.
Yeah,
That's where
already.
it is.
okay.
And
I
that
don't
supports
know.
our school.
Okay, easy, Tiger.
But they do have one at Olivia's they will set up a class account
Yep.
at Olivia's for
And,
that.
and Lori said she would do that. She'll talk to,
Okay, just to make sure that, because, I mean, I know there's people that put it in automatically, and Four Winds is awesome, and I know you're into that big time. But just also for 8th grade trip or whatever, if there was one central location that people can, I mean, that's not my favorite thing to do, is bring bottles and cans back.
But Olivia's does do that to support the school.
Okay.
So they
make- I
have the
think make
class
that-
one, and then
Make
Four
that
Winds will.
more known. Yep. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
So any other comments on H3?
No.
Okay. Then we have F4. Any comments, discussion?
I do not.
Okay. Next is D3, substitute teachers.
I do not. I noticed that they're fully vetted, which is the most important part. See, I
So-
told you I read it.
I had a question about this, just towards the principals or superintendent in the class, in the room. For licensed educators, it says that a substitute teacher who is licensed but not appropriately endorsed for the position of employment may fill a position for 30 consecutive calendar days. So that would be 6 weeks, is that right? In the same assignment. So what do we do for the long-term subs that are there for longer than 6 weeks?
So sometimes that breaks if there's a school vacation, it starts over again. It's consecutive, but our long-term sub, I believe, is already licensed.
I was gonna say, usually they
Yeah.
are, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
not-
she is, yeah.
But not all long-term subs are
No,
licensed,
that
right?
hasn't been the case, so the way.
That's
they-
how you get around it?
That's how you get around it.
So if there's one day of vacation.
Or if they,
Okay.
or if they're
So
absent.
this really
right?
doesn't mean a whole lot, because there's very rarely,
No, but it does. I mean, if you have a teacher, I mean, we have run into this where we have a long period of time in the fall where there's not really a break.
Right.
And we need somebody, they need to be licensed.
Okay.
I mean, there has been a situation where Chris says, no, they're not licensed for that grade level.
well, it says that they can apply for a emergency or provisional license.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
So there are ways around it.
Yes, and I work with Chris, if that's the case. I work with the superintendent.
Right. And we work at the state.
But
around
even
that.
if they're licensed, it says they can only do up to 60 days total.
Or consecutive.
So 30 consecutive calendar days. Then the superintendent may apply to the Vermont Standards Board for professional educators or its designee for an additional 30 days for specific
Right.
substitute teachers. That's only up to 60. Or for provisional licenses.
Right.
So is that where you, like, if you needed them 62 days?
You would work with the state around provisional license around that.
So that's what you'd have to
Discuss
do.
time frame with them if there is so if we had an individual who, like, say for, whatever reason, just was going to be out for the first part of the year and we need a long-term sub, we would work with the state around the placement around that, particularly if it's like a classroom teacher, things along those lines.
I just like to make sure that it's, as firm as possible with a little bit of exception
Right.
if
It is.
we need it.
Sometimes you need an exception. Yeah, and I mean, the central office, they know this, so.
Okay.
When you fill out new hire forms, you have to fill this stuff out. You have to attach school spring, you have to attach licenses. So Christine's good at McGinnis. She'll loop Chris in. And
Okay. Then moving on to F17, pupil privacy rights. It looks like the only thing that changed from the last one was number 8 and number 9. So if you just want to take a read of those, since those are new to this policy compared to the old one. Make sure we don't have any questions. Any concerns, questions, comments? Okay. Moving on, F19, student distribution of non-school sponsored literature. Any comments on this one? I just had a question. So I used to be a Girl Scout leader, and the kids used to go around and ask the teachers if they want to buy any Girl Scout cookies. Wasn't sure if that was really covered under this policy.
What would be the problem?
I buy stuff from kids all the time.
But are they distributing, like,
Girl Scout
literature?
cookies.
Right, but I think this is,
But it's the paper. Or they might put up signs for like, join Girl Scouts.
right, but I think there's an approval process, so.
Yeah.
And I don't see Girl Scouts being highly contentious. I think,
No.
they view ourselves, which is your favorite cookie, I mean, I guess.
Good choice to bring in, though,
Yeah,
yeah.
strong debate in the school.
Right.
You have the Thin Mint group want to.
No, you cannot bring your cookies in here.
Right, peanut.
And then on the second page, when it's talking about student self-expression, this is already covered under F24. So, but it differs slightly, so I was curious if they should both say the same thing.
One of the discussions we had at the last policy committee, we covered a lot of stuff, was how some of the policies are intertwined.
Yep.
And so that's where this follows.
So I'm wondering if they should just refer to, follow student expression to, according to F-24 and just,
They should be this, I
they should be
think they should
exactly
be
the
the
same.
same, correct.
So that way we don't have to worry about them,
No
saying one and
confusion,
one
right.
and something different in another.
Yep.
So I don't know if we want to send that back or just have them look at it. Jeff, do you want this? It has my notes on it so that when you're at the policy committee,
Okay.
it might be helpful.
Just one thing on, just to kind of, on Tina's point. So it does say that it's prohibited if it has fundraising as its primary purpose, right?
That's what I,
So that would
That
be
really
my,
isn't Girl Scouts' primary function is to sell cookies.
It is for me. No. Like, where are my cookies this year?
It is the
But-
first thing we all think of.
I gotta tell you, I'm so glad that I'm out of the Girl Scouts, so I don't have to worry about,
Nobody asked me to buy
Mom,
these.
you gotta buy cookie, exactly. So, that's not their primary. I mean, if they fundraise, it's used for the entire, well,
it's used for
The
the
leader,
troop,
right.
it's used for the community.
for any, if they go on trips or whatever, which haven't happened in years, but it's not their primary.
okay. I'm not a vigilante on fundraising or
Yeah.
anything, but,
But that's why
I just
it
wanted
was
to
a
point
gray
that out.
area for me.
All over, I mean, you look at the following paragraph, though, it just says basically, you just have to just let Sarah know that, hey, it's Girl Scout cookie season, so.
Don't
Exactly.
find me.
Please stop by my office.
They're
Wanted,
my dad.
Leave all those cookies in my office.
wanted Girl Scout cookies.
Storage.
D7, employee unlawful harassment.
Sorry, can I ask a question about F-19?
Mhm.
Is that allowed or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is? Alright. What, because I just, I'm not too familiar with like, I guess the wording of things. What exactly is a non-school sponsored literature? Because we're talking about cookies and I'm not really understanding literature means like something you read or a book or something. No?
It could be from, like, say, if you're like a youth group or, other organizations, outside, and so you're pass out literature to support, like a church group or something along those lines, so it's something like that.
Like a brochure.
Right.
Like a brochure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because it almost sounded from the wording that it was like, it can almost be like intrusively given.
It
Like,
can be.
people putting it on your cars, like advertisements.
It would be like
things like
stuffed in your locker when you're
Correct.
along.
Right.
And said all
Right.
sorts of stuff, and I don't know how that interferes with the previous one about privacy rights, that we have the right to see things before they're given to our children or something?
So,
Oh,
I'm just trying to reconcile
Okay.
everything.
right, I think,
Just 'cause,
one.
like I said, it's, the verbiage is just.
Right, so students should not be
not
distributing literature without permission from the, administration. All right, so if a student is going around and placing, like, items in lockers and Sarah or Eric find out, then that would be taken care of. And you're correct, that students, they do kind of work in hand that, I think, but your locker is your locker, and you should not have things put in there beyond, right. And so I think that's part of what, so if someone's doing that, then that's this policy would kick in, so.
Yeah, just, I don't understand exactly like what keeps, let's say, a high school, club from coming in to my daughter's classroom and handing her a flyer.
They're not from our school, so they would have to be approved
There's
by,
flyers hanging in her school that are from a middle school club.
but that's part of the school.
Yeah, that's a whole
That's-
different
I
issue.
don't understand.
So,
I
But the
agree.
middle school club would be able to do it.
School sponsored.
because it's school-sponsored, yeah.
Well, not voted on, but.
All right, so moving on to D7. Were there any comments? This one's the second time that we've seen it. So besides just the question if we want to indent on number 3, the A, B, and C, just to
Make it look
make
pretty.
it look a little bit more separate from the others, because it's part of number 3. On page 2, number 5, I think we discussed this last month about the age, how harassment is only mentioned for 40 and older. as a board, I would like to discuss this and let Jeff and Billy take it back to policy committee if we choose to. I still disagree with this statement. I realize that age 40 was from, some document ages ago, but I think now we recognize that ageism can go up or down, and I don't think that we should have.
So does that make me a protected person now?
For age discrimination, yes. But I think it can go either way. I think, young, new employees may feel that they are being harassed because they're told that they can't do it or because they're too young. Or
I think
things like
just
that.
take out that an applicant or age 40 or older,
yeah,
just take that
that's-
out. I don't know why it needs to be in there.
I don't think it needs to be in there either. So I just wanted some consensus of the board because I know that it was
know what I
brought
mean?
back last time and it wasn't changed, and I don't know why. When I read the policy minutes, it didn't really just.
I just want to defend the policy. So not every change that someone suggests is technically going to be done. So the committee may have decided that, you're changing your suggestion. So I think that's just something we want to clarify too, is just because a board says, hey, we want this change, doesn't necessarily mean that the GRCS Policy Committee is going to see a need for that. I think that's a discussion as well. So because while you may feel, then the group itself may say, well, after considering, we want to keep this. And that's where I think that's a part of the bigger discussion is how do we reconcile.
Can we know that, though? I mean, if we keep bringing this up, if you guys say you wanted it in or your group wanted it in, then just letting us know so we don't think it's going to go away, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there was a robust conversation about it when it was brought back, and I don't know if it was because they didn't know exactly why we sent it back, or when do we just talk about reconciling it? Do we have our own policy at Rutland Town that?
No.
We can't do that.
I do think that's a discussion maybe for GRCSU as we look at policy, as you appoint individuals to a policy committee, are they acting on behalf of this board? So in good faith, so as Billy and Jeff are there represented that, but it comes back and say, this is what the group decided, that we have to come to agreement that if this is what the policy committee who's operating on behalf of the boards feels is a policy that covers all the concerns, that we are satisfied that, or we, like I said, if one individual or a group of individuals says, we want to change this, what is that process? Because I think one of the concerns really is as how many times does it go back and forth because of a specific issue. And I think that's a discussion that the boards need to have, that it goes beyond me, but I think in terms of writing policy and discussing policy in terms of what is that, like what's the reconciliation, like how do we come to a consensus on this when there might be some individuals who feel strongly one way or another about keeping it or not keeping it, so.
Okay. So we'll move on. And then E2, school crisis prevention and response. Any comments?
I do not.
I do not either. Okay. So that brings us to upcoming meetings and future agenda items. So June 13th is our next meeting. We already talked about some future agenda items. We're going to talk about the SBAC. We're going to have a legislative review. And we're going to find out for sure if we were able to get the country club or if we were going somewhere else for our August retreat. Anything else?
It's another month away, but the July meeting date.
I think we had saved it as a, if we
To
need
discuss whether we're going to have a meeting that month or not.
So we should put that on the agenda as well.
Definitely. I mean, I won't
Yeah.
be here, but.
But you could still log in.
No, I'm
virtually
not
if
going to
you want
log in from the ocean. No.
All righty. Well, we'll discuss that in June.
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay. All right. Good and welfare. Does anyone have anything to share?
I'm really glad for all the teachers. We thank you for everything you did. Thank you to Jeff for taking care of that responsibility for the board. Great idea, both of you. No, we appreciate you. Did you guys get anything? Were you considered part of the staff? Did you get a dodo?
I did not that day.
I don't know why.
had this donut that was just like so much sugar. It was awesome.
Well, we're just
Like,
trying to sweeten you up a
coursed
little
through my
bit.
body.
It was,
I felt
they
awful,
were
but it was
super,
great.
yeah, everybody was extremely appreciative.
Teachers
Yeah.
were really appreciative.
I
Very
don't think
much.
that's ever
Yeah.
happened. It
No.
was-
No, it has not.
Marshall,
We
how
tried
was
to,
it?
right.
The food, the
Yeah.
The
weed.
card was wonderful. That was really, really nice.
Thanks.
And the food was also awesome. Teachers, I mean.
It put everybody in
scrap.
grab.
Yeah, it did.
I think what it was is it was never done before because this one said teachers and staff. Before it was just teachers. And so the board never did anything because they felt like they're thumbing their nose at the staff. So
We call it's teachers and
That was a
staff.
it
We're-
should be because one can't be there without the other. So,
That was
Right.
done on purpose.
great. That is
We're
awesome.
One team.
We're one team.
We are, definitely, especially this year. And thank you to the teachers that go out of their way for trying to help clean their rooms before they leave, and the
Yes.
students.
Oh, God.
Yes, just
That's
putting up the
just
chairs
awesome.
every day, picking up pieces of paper, helping take trash, recycling out. Everybody, I mean, we had an interview today and Kelly said it again. She just said, you know, the teachers here are amazing. Everybody's pitching in to help, so we really appreciate it.
Awesome.
And kids too.
That's all the good I have.
I just have a question. At graduation, is everybody going to attend from the board on Wednesday at 6 o'clock, the 15th?
Well,
I'm gonna be in Florida. on a-
Lucky.
on a-
well, you can
on
log
a
in.
class trip,
No, I'm only kidding.
Yeah, oh, that's right, that's right.
Oh,
so,
Okay,
I won't be able to.
okay. Tim, are you gonna come?
I plan to.
Okay, okay,
And I will be there.
okay.
yay.
I think it's nice that there's a student in the 8th grade class who's having a graduation party for everybody and invited all of the 8th graders. I
That
thought
is
that was
awesome.
very nice.
Yep,
Great.
a lot better than
I had,
a few previous years.
I was so happy to see the Rutland Town band and the Loyalty Day parade. My kids were going crazy. They're like, "Oh my God, that's Rutland Town!" And we were just like,
The famous rock band.
Yes.
it was just so great.
Yes.
I wanted to obviously thank the teachers and staff for all their hard work and the administrators. Like, you get a week, but we thank you always. I'm so pumped up for the June 1st concert. My son's gonna have his first ever, because of COVID, his first ever concert. And like, I canceled so many things to like, I was like, yes, like, let's do this.
The world
Like,
stops.
Let's get dressed
Yeah.
up and
Yeah.
and do it. And then my appreciation for all the volunteers and everybody operating our Girls on the Run. Like, my daughter's having the best time doing that, and I think that's just powerful and amazing. So thank you.
That is great.
There's a great picture of the band in the paper too.
Right, I did see that. And the others that were on Facebook. But never mind, I'll ask this later because it's contractual.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, so just a couple of things. Well, one, like, well, my most in-depth interaction with the school community this year has been like helping out with the 3rd and 4th grade basketball, and also not really helping out, but being around and seeing Wes's like excitement for his first like 5 days of baseball. He even wore his jersey to practice. You know, he wasn't the only one, which was good. But just like the parent connection there is just so cool to see how many cheering parent fans we had at basketball, and all the dads lined up at baseball with their gloves in their hand, stuff like that. And it's certainly belated on this, but happy Mother's Day to all you guys and the teachers and staff, and a couple of new mothers on the teaching staff that I happened to run into the other night, which was super cool to see. So yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, I just want to reiterate the thank of the teachers. I know how hard you guys all work. I've seen it. My wife's done it. My daughter's done it. My son-in-law does it. And how hard the administration works to keep everything running smooth as possible. And we just really appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And now I will entertain a motion to enter executive session after a 10-minute recess.
Okay. I'll make a motion, we go in executive session 10 minutes from now for the discussion, consideration of student records or documents and personnel.
Thank you, Lynette. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.